glasses, polished silver cutlery, and exaggerated laughter buzzed in the lavish dining room like a well-rehearsed symphony. My sister, Fallon, angled her phone just right, capturing every glittering chandelier and every glowing face across the grand oak table. The caption on her live stream? Family dinner with our favorite black sheep. I sat at the far end of the table, wearing a dress I'd sewn from discount fabric scraps. My cheeks were red, not from the wine, but from the heat of humiliation brewing under my skin. It wasn't just the fake smiles or the subtle whispers. It was the way they looked at me, like I didn't belong. Like I'd crashed a party I wasn't invited to, even though I'd paid for the damn tablecloths. "Dad, tell them what you said earlier." Fallon grinned at the camera, panning to him. My father adjusted his cufflinks, then chuckled. I said, "At least one of my daughters turned out right." A loud wave of laughter followed. My eyes flicked across the table. Fallon's fiancé, a man who once asked to borrow money from me, but now acted like I was invisible, my uncle and aunt, who didn't even acknowledge my hello, and Mom, who stared down at her plate like the steak was more interesting than the daughter she once swore she'd protect from cruelty. "You know," Dad added, leaning back with a smug smirk, "for someone who delivers coffee and lives in a studio apartment, she sure walks around like she's something." Fallon laughed so hard, she dropped her fork. I could hear the notification dings from the live chat pouring in. Is she really their sister? LMAO, this is brutal. Poor girl. Get her a job and a clue. My hands trembled under the table. I didn't say a word. Not when he mocked my job. Not when Fallon leaned over and whispered, "Smile for the camera, Emmy. Let the world see what failure looks like." Because I wasn't just hurting, I was calculating. 3 years. 3 whole years I'd been paying their mortgage behind the scenes, paying off Fallon's college loans because she forgot to apply for aid, bailing out Dad when he maxed out the card for his golf membership, and quietly wiring grocery money every week to Mom so the fridge stayed full. And still here I was, being laughed at like a stray cat begging for scraps. I stood up, quietly. Not slamming my chair. Not throwing a fit. Just stood. Walked out the front door with the sound of their laughter fading behind me. They didn't even notice I left. In the car, I opened my phone. Blocked Dad. Blocked Fallon. Blocked Mom. Blocked the entire family group chat. Then I opened my banking app. My savings account stared back at me. Modest but solid. The years of taking on 2 jobs, skipping vacations, and living like a ghost had added up. I had enough. That night, I found an apartment 2 cities away. Signed the lease. Gave my notice to both jobs. And for the first time in 3 years, I spent money on myself. A real coat. A new laptop. And a quiet, beautiful place with white walls and windows that opened wide to the sky. But that was just the beginning. Because they didn't know something. They didn't know that the failure they laughed at had just been accepted into one of the most elite business accelerator programs in the state. They didn't know I had written a full business plan in secret, one I'd submitted under a pseudonym, because I knew if they found out, they'd sabotage it like they always did. And they didn't know the woman they mocked would soon be making a public debut that no one in the family could ignore. They wanted a show. I was about to give them one. The startup incubator was tucked behind an old bookstore in the Arts District, one of those places people walked past 100 times without ever noticing. But inside, it was electric. Glass walls, shared tables, and minds buzzing with ambition. People like me, quietly burning with ideas, hoping for just one shot to prove they mattered. I remember walking into that room like it was yesterday, wearing the same coat I bought after walking out of that nightmare dinner. My palms were sweating, but my head was high. For the first time, I wasn't Emmy, the invisible provider of the family. I was just a woman with an idea and the will to fight for it. The panel of judges was brutal, no sugarcoating. But I didn't flinch when one asked, "Why should we take a chance on someone who doesn't even have a team?" I smiled. Because I've been running a household of 5 adults on a single income for 3 years, without them ever noticing. I've been solving real-life problems with zero recognition, zero thanks. I don't just know how to survive, I know how to scale. Silence. Then a slow clap from the youngest judge.
Damn. Okay.
You've got my attention. 2 weeks later, I got the email. Congratulations, Emily. You've been selected for full funding and mentorship. And that's when the tide turned. The first phase was intense: brand building, investor meetings, product development. I worked 16-hour days, lived off coffee and protein bars, and fell asleep with spreadsheets in my lap. But for the first time, every drop of sweat felt like it mattered. 6 months in, my app, a financial wellness platform built for blue-collar workers, was already being talked about in local tech circles. Then came the write-up in a business blog. Then a feature in the city paper. Then a surprise email from a major investor who saw something raw, rare, and deeply personal in my pitch. He offered me seed funding, more than I ever thought I'd see in my bank account at once. I signed it that day. The next morning, I opened Facebook out of habit. There it was. A post from Fallon, filtered and edited to perfection. So proud of my sis, Emily. You've always been the smart one. #family first. My stomach twisted. The same sister who once laughed in my face for delivering coffees was now trying to piggyback on my success. And the comment section? A storm. Wait, isn't this the sister you called a failure? You live-streamed a dinner making fun of her. You owe her an apology, not a post. She deleted the post in under an hour. I didn't reply. Instead, I quietly went about building my company. I hired a small team, 3 women, all from underdog backgrounds, all hungry like me. We worked out of a second-hand co-working space, and our team lunches were more laughter than food. Real support. Real sisterhood. The kind my family never gave me. But just when I thought they'd finally faded into the background, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail.
Hey, it's Mom. I
heard about the article in Forbes. We're proud of you, sweetheart. We're having a little gathering next Sunday. Family only. Maybe come?
She paused.
Fallon's bringing someone from a tech firm. Says she's got a business idea she wants feedback on. But honestly, I think she wants to show off. Another pause. It'd be nice if you came. Just think about it. I didn't call back. Not yet. But I thought about it. Hard. Because I didn't want revenge, not the kind that screams or burns. I wanted something more powerful. I wanted to walk in and exist. Unapologetic, undeniable, unshakable. Let them choke on their assumptions. Let them see me, and really see me. Not the daughter they discarded, but the woman who rose without them. The day of the family-only gathering, I didn't plan on going. I had my reasons, logical ones. I had a meeting with a mentor, investor calls lined up, my team was preparing for a product demo. But that voicemail kept tugging at the back of my mind. Not Mom's voice. Not the fake invite. But the tone she used when she said, Fallon's bringing someone from a tech firm. I could already see it. Fallon pitching someone else's recycled idea, dressing it up with charm and connections, trying to act like she was suddenly the family's innovator. Maybe this was less about pride and more about territory. And I wasn't about to let someone who laughed at me on live stream step into a world I bled to enter, just because she thought it looked shiny now. So, I went. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't announce it. I just showed up at the door in black jeans, a clean white blouse, and the same old coat I wore the night I walked out. Because I wanted them to remember it. I wanted them to see how I hadn't changed for them. I'd grown without them. The moment I walked in, Fallon's laughter died. She stood by the fireplace, wearing heels too high and a grin too wide, beside a man I instantly recognized from LinkedIn. Derek Vale, mid-tier investor. The kind who threw money at shiny ideas with empty cores. Emily. Fallon's voice cracked like thin glass. You came. I did, I said calmly, stepping into the room. Heard there was a tech showcase. She blinked, obviously caught off guard. It's not I'm just sharing some concepts. Derek's looking for potential. Derek stepped forward and offered his hand. I've heard of you. Financial Thrive, right? Your platform's been circulating pitch decks across multiple circles. My father raised his brows. Wait, people know her company? Derek laughed. Know it? She's a rising disruptor. If anything, I should be the one nervous right now. The room shifted. Visibly. Fallon's face fell into a polite smile so stiff it looked painted on. I was just telling Derek about my concept, an app that helps people budget better. You know, simple, intuitive. Derek frowned slightly. So, a duplicate of Emily's? Her voice faltered. No, I mean different. More like tailored for people like us. Higher income brackets. He gave her a look I'd seen 100 times in pitch rooms. Boredom. People like you don't need budgeting apps, Fallon. You need financial advisors. And just like that, the spotlight shifted. All eyes turned to me. My uncle, the same one who once called me a pity case, leaned forward. So, you're actually running something? A real company. I am, I said, keeping my voice level. We're closing series next month. Hiring 15 new people. Our client list includes over a dozen companies you've probably worked with. Dad scoffed. Why didn't you ever say anything? I met his eyes, cold, unreadable. Why would I? You made it pretty clear what you thought of my life. Fallon shifted beside Derek, trying to salvage control. I didn't mean anything by the live stream. It was just a joke, Em. People laughed, sure, but the joke was on me. I interrupted. While I paid your credit card debt in silence. While you used the money I wired Mom for groceries to buy a new handbag. While you live-streamed my humiliation, knowing the truth, and laughed anyway. The room went silent. Even Mom didn't speak. I took a deep breath. My voice softened, but didn't shake. You called me a failure, Fallon. Dad, you said I delivered coffee like it made me disposable. But you know what? Every coffee I delivered funded my dream. Every bill I paid for you, every hour I worked while you mocked me, that was me betting on myself. I don't want your apologies. I don't need your praise. I just wanted you to see me. Mom's voice finally broke the silence. Emily, I'm sorry. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I saw the truth, her guilt, her regret, maybe even shame. But I didn't want her to feel broken. I didn't want her to feel what I had felt. So I gave her something they never gave me. Kindness. I know, I said softly. But I needed to stop hurting before I could hear it. I didn't stay long after that. The moment the tension in the room dissolved into murmurs, awkward glances, and forced small talk, I turned toward the door. I wasn't there to bask in victory. I didn't need a second helping of cold roast or half-hearted congratulations. I'd already gotten what I came for. The truth laid bare. The silence finally broken. And most importantly, peace. I was halfway down the driveway when I heard the front door creak open behind me. Emily, wait. It was Fallon. I paused but didn't turn around. She jogged up, heels clicking, her face a storm of shame and uncertainty. There was no camera now. No live stream. Just my sister, stripped of her digital armor. I didn't come out here to fight, she said, breathless. I need you to know something. I looked at her, expressionless. You humiliated me, not just once. You curated my pain for entertainment. Her eyes welled up. I know. God, I know. I replayed that live stream after the Forbes article came out. I sat there and watched myself laugh at you while you were sitting there silently holding everything together. And I hated myself for it. She swallowed hard. I always wanted to be the one who made it. I thought if I looked more polished, dated the right guy, smiled enough, people would see me as the success story. But you, she gestured helplessly, you actually built something real. And I was too busy protecting my image to protect you. I didn't soften. Not immediately. Because pain like that doesn't just evaporate when someone cries. But I could see it in her face. She wasn't groveling. She was breaking. I don't want money. Or help, she whispered. I just want a second chance. To be the kind of sister you deserved. Even if it takes time. I looked at her, really looked, and saw not the girl who laughed at me on camera but the one I used to sneak cookies with at midnight when we were 12. The one who used to braid my hair before school, even if she always made it too tight. She was still in there somewhere. Just buried beneath years of image building and insecurity. I'm not promising anything, I said quietly. But I'm not slamming the door, either. She blinked, like she hadn't expected that. Then she nodded, slowly. That's fair. As I turned back to my car, my phone buzzed with a new email. Subject: Upcoming Women in Tech Summit, Keynote Speaker Invitation. I stared at it, blinking.
Keynote. Me.
At one of the biggest stages in the industry. I sank into the driver's seat and smiled so wide it hurt. 3 weeks later, I stood on stage in front of over 800 people. The lights were hot, the mic slightly too tall, but my voice didn't waver. I told them about my journey, without dramatics, without bitterness. I spoke of working 2 jobs, building something out of nothing, finding courage in silence. I told them about betrayal and strength and choosing kindness even when it wasn't given in return. And when I was done, the room erupted in applause. Backstage, as I walked off, a young woman stopped me, early 20s, nervous eyes. I just wanted to say thank you. I saw your sister's video months ago. I was working 2 jobs too, barely surviving. I thought I was a joke, that no one like us could ever make it. But then I read your story, and it gave me permission to try. My heart caught.
Permission to try.
That was it, wasn't it? All I'd ever wanted, for someone like me to be seen. Not as a failure, not as a joke, but as a story worth telling. Fallon eventually started volunteering at a women's shelter. She didn't announce it.
Didn't post about it.
Just did it. Dad stayed distant, his pride still welded to old definitions of success. But I didn't chase his approval anymore. I stopped waiting for words he might never say. Mom called every Sunday now. Not to ask for anything, just to ask how I was. And me? I hired more people, scaled the platform, mentored girls from backgrounds like mine. And every time someone asked, "What drives you?" I said the same thing. I know what it's like to be invisible. And I'm building something that makes people feel seen. The first time I visited the old neighborhood after everything happened, it felt like walking through a dream I'd long since woken up from. The cracked sidewalks, the rusted gate at the front of the family home, the wilted flowers in Mom's garden beds, it was all the same. And yet I wasn't. I stood at the curb for a long time before going in. Not because I was afraid, but because sometimes growth doesn't feel like rising. It feels like returning with new eyes. Inside, Mom was waiting at the door, hands flour-dusted, apron smeared with sauce. She pulled me into a hug before I could even say hello. "I made your favorite," she whispered. "Garlic bread the way you used to like it. Extra crispy edges." I laughed. "Thanks, Mom." We sat. No fancy setup, no live stream, no curated image for the world to watch. Just a mom and daughter, eating quietly. And when the bread basket was empty, she reached under the table and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. "I found this in the attic last week," she said. "It's yours." I unwrapped it slowly, my old notebook. The one I used to scribble ideas in when I worked the night shift at the coffee shop. Inside were pages of budget layouts, business sketches, motivation quotes, and even little reminders like breathe, one day at a time. "You were dreaming all along," Mom whispered. And I should have known. I should have asked. I should have listened. I looked at her, eyes wet. "We both should have." She nodded. "I just hope it's not too late." "It's not," I said. "But I need us to build something new. Something real." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Then let's start now." A month later, I sat across from a high school girl named Tessa during one of our company's mentorship outreach days. She looked nervous, like every sentence was going to be graded. "I don't know if someone like me can build anything," she said quietly. "I don't even have a laptop that works." I smiled. "You know what I had when I started? A notebook and a reason. That's all you need at first." Her eyes widened. "Really?" "Really," I nodded. "You start where you are. You build with what you have. You don't wait for permission. You just start." I handed her a new notebook, thick and clean. And on the first page, I had already written something. "You're not a failure. You're a foundation." She stared at it, then hugged the notebook like it was a lifeline. And maybe in some way it was. Fallon and I weren't close again overnight. Trust is a slow, quiet thing. But she kept showing up. She called without a script. She apologized without conditions. She came to one of our workshops and offered to help with logistics. No makeup, no followers, no fanfare. And one afternoon, when the last student left, she sat beside me on the bench outside and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me. Even when I gave up on you." I didn't reply with words. I just reached out and took her hand. Because some wounds don't need salt. They need space. They need sunlight. They need time. Then one morning, a man walked into my office with a delivery box and a letter. "It's from your father," he said quietly. "He asked me to give it to you in person." My stomach twisted. I hadn't spoken to Dad since the dinner. Not once. Not directly. Inside the box was a faded family photo, me at 7, wearing a plastic crown and a ketchup-stained shirt, standing proudly beside a homemade lemonade stand. Taped to the frame was a short note. "You were always the brave one." I just didn't know how to say it. "I hope this makes it to you, even if I couldn't." That was it. No signature. No grand gesture. But it said everything I needed to hear. And I didn't cry right then. I waited until I was alone. Then I wept, not because of what he wrote, but because of what it meant. He had seen me. Finally. Now my company is thriving. We have offices in 2 cities. We sponsor scholarships. We mentor girls with big dreams and small chances. And every single one of them learns the same truth I had to live through. That you are allowed to leave the table where you're being served shame. You are allowed to block the noise, walk away, and build your own house from ashes. And when you're ready, you are allowed to return. Not to reclaim their approval, but to remind yourself of how far you've come. Because being called a failure